All right. Jesse on Fire, coming to you from Fort Lauderdale after watching Jon Jones prove Dana 100% correct. Like, I had forgotten about that going into the fight last night, how hard Dana had gone in the paint for the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year about how Jon Jones is the GOAT, the number one pound for pound. Everybody's smoking crack, yada, yada, yada. And Dana apparently knows the fight business and fight game better than everybody else, because that was proven accurate last night. That was unbelievable. So we're going to talk obviously about the fight. Some rumors that are floating around about who does like what's actually going on behind the scenes on who he's going to fight next, because I heard some rumors about the Saudis wanting to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get Jon Jones versus Francis. And I actually have some thoughts about that. I thought that was, I mean, money excluded. I thought that was impossible for a multitude of reasons, obviously, you know, with Francis being under contract with PFL. But I actually am changing my mind on that. And it's not just because all the Saudis will pay, you know, $1 billion. I'm saying I actually think it's essentially risk-free for the UFC, where before the whole reason you don't do it is because, like, what if Francis beats Jon Jones? And then now you have the best heavyweight in the world in a different organization. You know, the risk is enormous. But anyway, we'll talk about that. Tom Aspinall, man, my read on this fight is different now, obviously, because Jon Jones, the craziest thing about watching him last night, and just the way this entire thing played out, is, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I felt like I didn't really have a strong handle on Jon at heavyweight yet, you know, because he came out and he fought Cyril and he just dispatched of him so easily, you know, so easily that it was like, what do we even know? So we'll talk about that. Thank you, dude. It's as if I had you do this on purpose, because guess what's the first thing we're going to talk about real quick, guys? Oh, look at that. Look at that story from today. Or yet, what's today? What's today, the 16th or 15th? Yeah, what's the date today? 17th. Yeah. Huh. Jeez. Almost like if I say I figured out what's going on the morning after the fight, give it 24 hours, and you're going to see verification of exactly what I said. It was an exhibition, dude. That's what happened. He wasn't allowed to knock him out. And, you know, that's what happened. So I think the term for my read on this yesterday, given this, is yes, I was correct. Anyway, so, I mean, listen, there are a lot of contracts in some of these events that are very clearly less than above board. Now, I'm not saying this one's like whatever, you know, but there are other ones. Never in UFC, though. That's the thing. UFC does not put their finger on the scale for fights ever. And I feel like the main event last night, in contrast to the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, is like a perfect example of why the UFC is and always will be the premier combat sports organization in the world. You know, it's like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson did a $17 or $18 million gate, the biggest ever outside of Las Vegas. They absolutely crushed it in business. They crushed it in terms of the broadcast. They crushed it across the board. But the main event, right? Not so much. You know what I mean? Main event, sold it that it was going to be or whatever. And then it's like, but, you know, no one gets knocked out, you know? Hey, no one gets knocked out, you know? Like, it's a real fight, you know? You just, Mike Tyson is not allowed to try to knock Jake Paul out. So it's still real, right? It's not fake, but Tyson can't knock Jake out. And in the very first exchange, Mike hit Jake with a shot that was 30% and almost knocked Jake out. So I think I think that's what happened. I think it was an exhibition, and in that first exchange, Tyson clipped him with, I mean, literally, it was a tiny shot, and Jake went flying, and I think Tyson was like, whoops, if I knock him out, I don't get this $20 million. So anyway, but so let's talk about the, actually, well, we'll talk about, we'll start with the Jon Jones fight. How insane was the Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler fight, though? How insane was that fight, dude? I was losing my shit, obviously. I loved it, and I love that Chandler tapped, dude. Chandler tapped. Like, they gave him the decision, but Chandler tapped. That's what he was saying. Like, Chandler gave Oliveira the submission. He was trying to give him a submission win. You know? That was gangster. That was gangster. That fight was that was awesome. I texted Chandler I can't remember exactly what I said. Something that just came straight from I said, you are the most genuinely inspirational game bred dude ever. That shit, I mean, he got demolished for 4 rounds. Demolished. And then comes into the 5th round like that, especially given how the last fight went between them, where he was 10-8, almost knocked out Charles in the first. Then Charles came back to win. Man, that was, both those guys are awesome. Chandler tapped at the end of the 5th round when there was like 3 seconds left. Like maybe 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds left. Chandler tapped. He wasn't getting submitted. That's what I'm saying, is he was trying to give Oliveira, I think, the finish, you know, like because he tapped, and Charles like looked at him, and he's like, yeah. And he tapped. You're talking 2 to 3 seconds left. You know, it was after he had jumped. And then, you know, they still went to the cards because he wasn't in a submission or anything. But I don't know, man. That was amazing. I saw people are saying Chandler cheated a lot. Whatever. I mean, did he cheat when he fucking landed the shot in the 5th round after that? You know what I mean? No, yeah, he definitely tapped, like 100% tapped. And then Charles said something to him, and he was like, yeah, and he tapped again. But it was, yeah. And Gabrielle says she thinks she heard the ref say, are you tapping? Because he definitely was. 1,000% Chandler was tapping, but he wasn't tapping because he was in a submission. He was tapping because there were 3 seconds left and Charles was on his back. And so he's like, all right, you know, like, we don't need to have this go to the judges. Like, he was tapping to concede victory. That's what I'm saying. Is like, that's what's so gangster. You know, he tapped to concede victory to Charles, which Charles obviously won the decision, but Chandler was like, all right, like, you beat me. We don't need the judges. You won. It's a gangster ass move, dude. A gangster ass move. Rick and something. Thank you very much, good sir, for the super chat. Ray Thornton, you are a member now. You are going to enjoy yourself immensely over there. There's a lot of fun stuff. Whatever. Illegally giving someone brain damage is whatever. What are you talking about? You're talking about when he was punching him from the top? It's wrapping it around. I mean, I didn't see any like close-ups, but clearly he was trying to wrap around his ear. Okay. Like, if a fighter is here and they just go like this, you know what I mean? They just go like this. You think that, like, just because, like, they put themselves in a position where you can't punch their head, like, they can't get punched in the head, like, that seems like good. Like, that's the application of the rules that you think is like how it's supposed to work. Chandler was clearly making an effort to go around the side and punch him in the side of his head. And if you would have punched him in the back of the head, that's on the ref to call it. Okay. Much, much, much more important stuff, though, is here. All right. So Tom or John, that's the conversation. But first, I just want to say about Jon Jones, like I was talking about this earlier. Like, I feel like I didn't have a full handle on what he was like at heavyweight because Cyril got dispatched so easily. John didn't show any of his striking in that first fight, like none. None. He went out there against Cyril, shot, half standing guillotine. It was basically like nothing happened. Now, wow, dude. He looked fast. He looked super powerful. He looked way more powerful to me at heavyweight than he did at light heavyweight. He was controlling distance really well, even when, like, you know, because the critique on Jon his entire career, if there was one, was that he was exceptional at leveraging his reach, but that he always struggled against guys who had similar reach to him, Gustafsson, you know, and Reyes and stuff. Like, those were the ones that were like, oh, you know, if the other guy has similar reach, you know, like, it takes away Jon, like, kind of making it out like that was the core of his game, was his ability to kind of take advantage of longer reach. And now he's at heavyweight. He fought against Stipe. Stipe looked enormous. And Jon whipped that fucking ass on the feet. Whipped that ass, dude. You know, and did it with, like, oh shit. Hang on for 1 second, you guys. Sorry, this computer was gonna crap out. That cannot happen. Dude, you guys ever, like, go somewhere and the plugs don't, like, put out enough electricity, you know, like, even when it's plugged in, like, they're like, your thing is charging super slow. I wonder if I could charge at it. Can you charge in 2 ports at the same time, Gabrielle? Let's see. Give it double juice. All right. It's getting double juiced, just like Jon Jones. But yeah, I mean, Stipe, it's I don't know. It's hard to say, like, what it's hard to make a read on what Stipe had in there, because in my opinion, Jon looked so good, you know. Like, bottom line, Stipe, if you come in and you fight when you're 42 and you lose, people are going to say you're old. It's just that simple. Like, they're going to be like, oh, he's over the hill, even if that's not even necessarily why you lost. It's just the nature of the fight game in general. Like, if a guy loses, you're going to be hard on his performance. And if a guy wins, on a lot of cases, they get too much credit for the win without considering who they were fighting against. But yeah, in this case, like, see, I don't agree that Jon just looked good because Stipe looked bad, man. Jon looked nasty. He looked nasty. You look like, just look at the speed on those low kicks, or that teep that he kept throwing to the solar plex. Like, you can just look and see, you know, like, especially a heavyweight, how fast they're moving, how powerful it looks. Like, there's no, like, it's like, to me, just when I watch that, it's the same as watching him hit a bag. Like, I can tell if he's fast. I can tell if he's strong, and he's snapping it. And, like, dude, Jon looked good. No one's going to convince me that Jon Jones did not look good last night. And on the ground, oh my God. Everybody always says, oh, you know, Jon Jones, the last guy you want to have on you. And I never really, like, think about him as a fighter like that exactly. And then, so anytime that he is in that position, I always like, I'm like, oh man, I forgot how wild that guy is on top. But wait, hang on. Tom was done wrong. He's the interim champion and backup fighter. He couldn't do a face-off, and Jones is ducking. Jones not ducking him. Did you guys? Okay, that's the next thing for everybody to talk about. Billy Robbins, thank you very much. There's a ton of stuff in members only that you'll enjoy. Go back. If you're new to members only, just go to the first videos, like, and just start moving up, because they're evergreen, and there's stuff I could only put back there. You'll enjoy it. But anyway, the like, Jon Jones straight up said in the post fight, now I need to talk to Dana. I'm not going to retire, and maybe we could give you guys what you want. I said from the jump, I'll tell you this right now, dude. I don't care who, anybody, like, people are great at a lot of things on YouTube and combat sports. When it comes to, this is the strategy that this guy is implementing when it comes to the business, Nobody does that better than me. And I told you guys from the beginning, when Jon Jones oh yeah, I'm going to retire. And everyone's he's ducking Tom. He's ducking Tom. I'm like, he's negotiating. He's negotiating. Every single thing that he is saying is negotiation. Because the only leverage you have as a UFC fighter in a negotiation, you have one play, not two. One, I just won't fight. That's it. That is the only way that you can get the UFC to pay you more than that's in your contract. So Jon has to convince everybody that he is completely willing to retire, And like last night couldn't have gone. And he's demonstrated before, like he held out for multiple years. In that case, his brand was way less valuable because he had just, his last two performances were not like his best at light heavyweight. He said he wanted to go up to heavyweight. As much as people want to see him at heavyweight, there's not like a huge demand for him to fight at heavyweight. It's more of a thing like, yeah, that would be cool to see Jon Jones fight at heavyweight. We're excited, but it's not like, oh my God, we have to see Jon Jones. But he demonstrated the willingness to sit out because he did for multiple years. Now that he's convinced the UFC that he'll sit out, he said from the beginning that he wouldn't, that he was going to retire and that he wasn't going to fight Tom. He wasn't interested in the Tom Aspinall fight, And then now after that performance, he's like, maybe we can get it done. I'll talk to Dana. And he's like, because now everybody, we have to see that fight. Like we have to, it was one of those things before where it's like, is Jon going to duck Tom Aspinall? Is he going to give him a title shot, whatever? And it's like, it's all just talk. Like Jon never could have gotten out of that Stipe fight to fight Tom Aspinall. That was a narrative that was not real. And I could talk about that in a second. But like, he's already signed to fight Stipe. Every other thing that is said is just words, right? It's all just words. And he just needs to get through this guy before any of that even matters. If he loses to Stipe, then there's no conversation anyway. So he says he's going to retire because he's negotiating. And I was proven correct the millisecond that he was on the microphone last night and said, okay, maybe I'll stay around for another one and give you guys what you want. There you go. Now open negotiations begin. 100%. 100%. That is exactly what was happening, dude. But, and the other thing is when you got, like, when people are like, like I would love to see him fight Poatan. Me too. But they won't do that fight for sure, for the reasons that stated previously that I'll repeat right now. The UFC's business is hingent on fighters that can push the needle. That's why when Dana says he's a needle pusher now, okay, that's what he's talking about. Because like they could put on a card on Saturday and throw any, random group of people on the card and it'll get a certain amount of views no matter what. And then there are a handful of guys that are needle pushers where it's like, okay, if we put him on the card, it'll get this many more views. And they have metrics to support that stuff. They know very, very surgically what the impact of each individual fighter is. And so you have like people that are needle pushers and you have people that are fucking needle pushers, like needle pushers. They're the biggest guys you have. And when you have guys going into different weight classes to fight, what you will absolutely never see are two big needle pushers fighting against each other ever. You will never see that ever. It will not happen because one of them has to lose. Okay. There is no upside. Like there's zero benefit. Like this is not, as much as fans are naive and think they're like, but the fans want to see the fight. And Dana's like, we put on the fights the fans want. Yeah, but not at the expense of the business. He's not going to sacrifice the UFC's business and the, projected growth and all of the stuff they're doing just to do a specific fight. That'll never happen. We'll never do it ever. And your needle pusher losing is a really big problem when that happens. You want to avoid it at all costs. That's why they handpick opponents for certain guys that are big needle pushers. They don't want them to lose. That's why, like, when a guy becomes champion that maybe like might not necessarily be the best guy in the division, they're like, okay, perfect example. Now, Sean O'Malley beats Aljo, incredible fight, right? And then they're like, okay, who could we give him next? You got Merab, who's right there, way tougher matchup. Or there's a story we could sell about giving it to Cheeto because Cheeto beat him on that weird fluky thing, and Cheeto is 1,000 times better matchup for O'Malley. So we're going to do the Cheeto fight. Like that's how that works. Every time that someone has gone up or down a weight class to fight for the belt, you have one massive needle pusher and another belt holder that doesn't push the needle at all. like at all. Okay. Jan Blachowicz against Israel Adesanya, Conor McGregor against Eddie Alvarez, Henry Cejudo against TJ Dillashaw before Henry Cejudo was Triple C, when he was not a needle pusher at all. Okay. You won't find an exception to this rule. And the one thing that's different about the Aspinall and Jon Jones thing is, I mean, it's not, like going up and down. He's the interim champion. But even still, the equation is different because Jon Jones, as great as he is, how big of a needle pusher he is, especially now, he is 37 years old, right? Like, Jon Jones cannot still be heavyweight champion when he's 43, most likely, So if you're losing a guy like that, your best case scenario is to create a new one. And how do you create a new needle pusher in the UFC? A guy who with potential beats a fucking needle pusher. This is like 1 + 1 = 2. There's no counter argument to this. This is how the business works. And so if Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones handily, Tom Aspinall now becomes a massive needle pusher, right? Poatan and Jon Jones fight, without a shred of doubt, one of your guys is going to get beat, and that's going to crush your needle pusher. And there's no upside for the other one because they're already a massive needle pusher. It will not happen. There is a 0%. People could beg Dana. They could go to his house for fucking 6 straight weeks, knocking on his door, begging. They will not make the Poatan and Jon Jones fight 100%. There is no chance they'll do it. None. Now, the one thing that could happen, and I'll talk about that now. Let me catch up the super chats real quick. James Carrier, can't be the GOAT when you've been caught using PEDs. It's unreal the pass John gets for that. You're just going to give him a pass. Dude's a cheater. So I agree with your and I actually have made that exact same argument. I have made that exact same argument, but now it's different. Like, now it's different, dude. The guy, he got popped for juice, but he is very clearly not on juice now because he's the most tested person ever. And he went up a weight, and bottom line is he never lost at light heavyweight. No one in the history of the sport has ever carried the belt the amount of time that he has. And then now he goes to heavyweight, and he's now won the title and defended it definitively at a new weight class when he's definitely not cheating. It's like, it just depends on how you consider the GOAT conversation. Like, he clearly used juice, got caught. But I'm talking about, is he the great? Like, he's the greatest. He's the greatest fighter of all time. There's just like no fucking conversation anymore. You know what I mean? But I understand. I completely understand the argument. But I just think now he's transcended that. Ray Thornton, thank you very much. Love your content. Been a member since Trump assassination attempt. Started my day watching. Thank you very much, dude. I appreciate the support. Glad to have you on board. Okay, so now I want to talk about the Francis and Jon Jones situation, because this should also be another feather in Dana's cap as the best promoter of all time. Like, straight up, think about this. The UFC had never in the entire history of the company lost a reigning champion of a division. It's once you get to the modern age, right? Champion of the UFC. They never lost them to free agency, not once. And they lost the heavyweight champion, right? Who was decisively the heavyweight champion because he flatlined the last heavyweight champion and then beat his next comer with a torn ACL or MCL. But nonetheless, like, they lost him to free agency. That was a catastrophe for the UFC, right? Dana straight up, like, Francis is not a good guy. Like, Dana, like, they took it real personal. I mean, I don't know all the details of what happened, but like, they felt like he negotiated with them in bad faith. I mean, to me, it's like, all right, well, you offered him this, and then he made this much more over here. It's not like the numbers are not comparable. Of course, Dana's going to go on. So it's the only time I'll ever be like, blah, blah, Dana. But that story is not true. It's just not true. Francis made way more money doing what he did than he could have in the UFC. It's just not true. That's just not true. But they lost the UFC heavyweight champion. Okay. Catastrophe. And that was, it didn't even really matter until Francis fought Tyson Fury. So basically, you know, okay, so they lost heavyweight champion, couldn't sign, but if Francis just never fought ever again, then it does, you know, it's like, it doesn't really, it's just kind of like this guy, just same as someone kind of retiring. But so he fought Tyson Fury, I think like like a year and a half ago, or a year ago? Might have been a year ago. Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury. What was that date? I feel like it was October of 23 or something. October 23. Okay, yeah. So like a little over a year ago, right? So in that amount of time, from in 1 year, you went from, oh my God, the best heavyweight in the world is not in the UFC anymore, to now you have one of the, if not the most anticipated heavyweight matchup of all time in the UFC between Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, and no, like the conversation, which is like, dude, none of them beat Francis. And even with Francis going into PFL and just whipping that guy's fucking ass, he's not even in the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, do you understand how incredible a job as a promoter these guys do? Like Dana and them? Like, why do you think Dana's out getting in fucking wars every day online about the fact that Jon Jones is the pound for pound number one? Do you really think that that's just because he wants to argue with trolls? No, he's a genius marketer. He does that over and over and over so that the conversation is Jon Jones number one pound for pound. Yes or no, 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 yes or no. And he's the heavyweight champion. That's literally like, don't look over there. Just look over here. Keep your eyes fixed over here on Jon Jones. It's fucking brilliant. He's a genius, dude, that guy. And so and they also had some good fortune in the fact that you have Tom Aspinall, this young, good-looking, undefeated aside from a single, you know, injury, all stoppages, killing machine on the other side, you know. So now you have one of the most anticipated heavyweight fights of all time, and Francis is not in it. And no one's even talking about Francis. Now, like I said, I had heard a rumor that Francis versus Jon Jones was actually not fully off the table because the Saudis wanted to put it on. And what? Oh yeah. Yeah. Now this is just like well, this is like coming from someone who has done business with everyone involved here, like big deals with the, you know, Saudis, UFC, whatever. And he said that the UFC is always the big fucking, you know, like the big dick on the block in terms of like they dictate whatever. But when the Saudis entered the game, that's completely different. Like the Saudis really want that fight. Like the UFC is going to do what they need to do in order to do business with those guys. You know, these are the wealthiest people on earth. Like literally. I mean, maybe you could argue the you know, the banking cartel families that are, you know, sit atop the fractional banking Federal Reserve System, of course, because they, you know, they do whatever. But outside of those people, the Saudi royal family are the wealthiest people on earth. Their money is unfathomable. Like they don't need to worry about making profit on stuff. It's not even about that. This is like a project for prestige for their country as much as it is about anything, fighting or whatever, you know? So if they want to make that fight, they can, because they can offer UFC a number they can't refuse. Like bottom line, there's always a number. Like there's always a number that someone's going to say yes to. And they have the ability to give UFC that number to have Jon fight Francis. And here's the other thing too, is the risk is actually not as big as it seems like it is. That's what I was saying, is like the landscape on the risk profile of having Jon Jones fight Francis out, you know, in like a super fight is much different now, because PFL, no offense to anybody at PFL, obviously you guys are fighting an uphill battle. PFL is bombed. Okay. Like they are not doing well. They're not selling tickets. They're not doing numbers. They spent a fortune on Francis. The pay-per-view buys on that event were like, I obviously bought it because I buy all of them, but like, I think it was like 10 or I don't know, 10 or maybe 15,000 buys. Okay, like there is no risk of PFL making a huge run against UFC at this point at all. Like the risk does not exist. So the only risk is, okay, lose it. And here's the other thing. As far as I understand it, Francis has one more fight on his deal at PFL. You know what I mean? And I know Dana's doing the thing where, like, if people sign with other organizations, they don't get to come back. But, you know, it's not like Francis is locked up in some super long-term deal. He has one fight done and he has one more. So he theoretically could fight one more. Like, literally, you know what you could do? Oh my God. You know what they could do? You know what they could fucking do?
What?
They could do the Jon Jones Francis fight, and that would be Francis's last fight on his PFL contract, and then have UFC, you know, and then they already negotiate to where he's going to come to UFC right afterwards. So, like, theoretically, he actually could, you know, if the deal was done, like, Dana won't trust Francis, you know, like, nor should he. Like, if Francis is like, no, yeah, I promise I'll definitely sign with UFC after, like, they need to get that on paper. And I don't think you can, and as a matter of fact, never mind, you can't do that, actually. I take it back. You're not, legally, you can't negotiate with him while he's under contract with the other organization. So there would be no way to structure that deal without people taking each other at their word. And there's no fucking way that Dana and Hunter are going to trust Francis just to, like, okay, yeah, I'll come right after. You know what I mean? Like that, so they can't do that deal. Now this is a crazy take. Nobody walks through Francis with ease, dude. Now this, I mean, I don't hate this take though. Like, aside from walks through Francis with ease, but fight Aspinall and then go down to fight Pereira at light heavyweight, then retire. I mean, that would be awesome. But again, they're not going to do the Pereira fight. It will never happen. They will not do it. They will not do it. That one is not, there's no like magic, like royal family in the clouds that's going to make that fight happen. That fight's not happening. Pereira and Jon Jones is not happening for the reasons I laid out earlier. And those are, you could take that as gospel, dude. Does everybody like chat? Do you guys understand what I'm saying about that? Like, does anybody have any questions about what I'm saying about why they won't do that fight for absolute sure? You know, because I mean, I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm just making sure that I'm communicating it well, because there is no question that fight will not happen. Like, it won't happen for sure. If he fights Aspinall, then he will. No, they won't. That's not correct. It has nothing to do with Aspinall or any other thing. They're in different weight classes. The only time they do different weight classes is when you have one needle pusher and one that's not a needle pusher. They will never put two needle pushers from separate divisions against each other. It will never happen, has never happened, will never happen. Being exactly correct. It is a certainty. Like, the worst thing that can happen for the UFC's business is one of their needle pushers loses, especially if they lose decisively. And what you get when you put two needle pushers together is an absolute 100% certainty that one of your needle pushers is going to lose. They will never make that fight. I mean, listen, now, to have the conversation about how that fight would go, that's an interesting conversation for sure. Because Poatan could knock Jon out for sure. That absolutely could happen. But if Jon is able to, I mean, again, and I still feel like Poatan's grappling is a mystery, man. Like, and this is not basically all I do in my entire life now is film videos, edit videos, and do jiu-jitsu. So, like, I'm not saying this ignorantly when I say Poatan's grappling is a mystery, because people are like, oh, he just started doing it a few years ago. It's like, okay, I understand that, but this guy is a martial arts phenom. Like, this is not like a regular person. He was a professional kickboxer, winning within, I think, like, I don't know, a year of when he started kickboxing from scratch. He's got a body that is built to kill in every single martial art. Like, can you imagine that guy's jiu-jitsu, like, with how he's built? It's fucking not even fair. You know, so like, do I think he'd be able to deal with Jon on top of him? No, I don't. But we don't know for sure what his ground game looks like. Like, we don't know how good his defense is. Like, because like it's one thing if he has like very medium grappling and Jon will most likely be able to submit him as soon as he gets on top. But if he's got excellent defense, like if he's got great, it's not just like grappling is not just what techniques do you know to do blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, if someone is exceptional at grappling defensively, that makes all the difference in the world in an MMA fight, especially if you're a striking, you know, he's an expert striker and you're going to stand up in between rounds. I think Jon Jones would win for sure, but Poatan can knock anyone out. Absolutely anyone. And what Poatan does better than anybody, I think, is he changes his speeds. You know, like he's throwing at a certain speed, and then he has this other gear that he can just snap into, and he's super long. Jon's not gonna be able to use reach on him. Like Poatan's just as big and long as Jon is. I don't know. I would love to see it. My gut, I mean, you know, the smart money is that Jon beats him by taking him down and beating him up, but okay, cool. We also know that, dude, Alex is never out of the fight either. I mean, he got handily beat in that first Israel Adesanya fight. And then he came out in the 5th and he knocked him out, you know? So it's not like he's just a steamroller. There's, you know, you guys know how that is, dude. There are certain fighters that they're front runners. They're Secretariat, you know that reference. Secretariat was a horse that always ran at the front, but you know, guys that always run at the front. And then if they don't run guys over and then they get kind of into deeper water, you know, like, it's not very good for this guy. Shabazian, perfect example. Conor McGregor, perfect example. Those guys are fucking steamrollers. But when they meet resistance in the first, second round, and then they, you know, like a little bit of heat comes off of them, and I think both of them also mentally comes off a little bit, then, you know, they're a completely different fighter. Poatan is not that. Jon Jones is not that. Jones fans saying he'll beat Tom. No, they're high. I definitely am not high. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying for sure that he beats Tom. But if you think that you can decisively go, oh, yeah, it's not even going to be a close fight, that is absolutely patently ludicrous. Jon Jones has never lost one fight. He's never lost. Okay. He has never once in 20 fucking years or whatever. I don't know. Let me see what his first fight in the UFC was. Like, I mean, that's my, you don't even need another argument in this conversation with people. Like if people are like, no, bro, Jon Jones, blah, blah, blah. Okay. His first fight in UFC was January 31st, 2009. Okay. 2009. What were you doing in 2009? You know, he won the title 2011. He won the title in 2011. This guy has been the UFC champion for 14 fucking years. 14 years he's been the champion. 14 years. Think about 14 years in your own life. Like, what were you doing 14 years ago? Jon Jones has been the belt-holding world champion for that long. Let's not get into fucking semantics on, oh, he got stripped or whatever. No one beat him. He's not lost a fight that entire time, aside from, you know, when he got disqualified for knocking a guy out in a really mean fashion. Oh, hey, you're not allowed to knock him out like that with a technique which is now currently legal. If there is no rational argument whatsoever that a person can be like, oh yeah, he's going to get run over. And you're like, Jon Jones is going to get run over. Oh yeah, he's going to get run over. And your evidence for that is what? Well, Tom's really fast. Tom's got good grappling. Tom's got whatever. You're all right. And I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm a huge Tom Aspinall fan, and he's nasty and he's good. He's great everywhere. But it's Jon fucking Jones, and he just won last night by completely dominant fashion, defending his heavyweight belt. if anybody's like, oh, John's gonna get run over, like that, I'm not calling anyone a retard, but that is the most retarded take ever. It's indefensible. It's an indefensible take. Now, it's equally stupid if anyone says Jon is going to, like, if they're that confident Jon's going to run over Aspinall. Like, you know, like, obviously there are lots of people who are great at handicapping fights, but you just look at how anyone handicaps a fight. There's no one who can feel confident being like, he's going to run him over. It's like, because why? You know what I mean? Like when Conor McGregor fought against Cowboy when he came back in 2020, I bet on Conor by first round knockout. And I felt wildly confident about that. And the breakdown was simple. Conor is an absolute elite premier steamroller in the first round. He has 1 million first round knockouts. Cowboy is notoriously a very slow starter who in some cases gets knocked out in the first round if people start moving on him too fast. Conor's lulled him to sleep, like acting like they're best friends. Conor's going to knock him out, right? It's like, so strength and weakness, right? Conor's biggest strength matches up against Cowboy's biggest weakness. Okay. Aspinall has never lost aside from an injury. Jon Jones has never lost aside from a 12-6 elbow that he KO'd a guy with. Okay. No one has exposed any weaknesses in either of them. Like neither of them have any weaknesses exposed at all. So there is no rational, like defensible, oh, this guy's going to run over this guy position. It's just not there. It's just not there. You can have an opinion, but anyone who feels really confident in either direction, your confidence is misplaced. You know, you might end up being right. Like your prediction might end up being right, but I'm telling you that, like, if you think that you're on solid ground to have that opinion now, you're wrong. You know. James Carrier, thank you for the chat. So now he beat an aged Stipe, clearly not to his peak, hasn't fought in years, and now he's the GOAT. You mean you can't be the GOAT when you cheated? Yeah, no, we have this. Wait, didn't I just talk? I think you and I just had this conversation, right? Yeah. This is the second time you said it. I mean, listen, man, if you want to have the same conversation again, pay me $5 to respond. I'll do it again. Like I said, my opinion is that now he's transcended that, where like I was on that team that you can't be the GOAT if you've popped for juice. But that was before he went to heavyweight, which completely changed everything. And then now he's defended his heavyweight title. I mean, it's just like, and you know, for 100% sure he's not on juice now. You know, I don't know. To me, I mean, listen, like I understand. I'm not going to push back on someone who's like, because the GOAT conversation is an opinion. So if someone's like, he cheated, that's a like a hard line for me. Anybody who cheated ever cannot be the greatest of all time in my book. I'll be like, all right. I mean, that's a principle and you stand on it. I respect that, you know. Just my opinion is that he is, because like no one has ever even come close to doing what he's done. And now we know, and now he's the most tested guy. And he's definitely not on roids now. You know what I mean? To be fair, he lost the Reyes fight. You know, I'm glad that he didn't, because that fight was very, very close for sure. But everybody wanted Reyes to win really bad, which kind of changed the perspective. Like there's, I mean, I'm not a person who's going to say that like I'm down with this guy really did win this fight or whatever. A perfect example would be GSP against Johnny Hendricks. Like there's not a person on fucking planet Earth that could strap me to a table and waterboard me to get me to say that GSP won that fight. He 1000% lost that fight. And anyone who watched it knows that. He got his fucking ass kicked in that fight. Straight up. Johnny Hendricks whipped his fucking ass. And they gave him the decision anyway. And GSP knew too. That's why he's like, he took like years off after that, because he got fucking beat down. Now, Hendricks probably on roids, which is why subsequently his career kind of fell apart, because I think he had to get off roids, which is not very easy for people. But the Reyes, you know, Reyes versus Jones is not the same at all. As it's close for sure. But like the Gustafsson fight, everybody used to say that he lost the first Gustafsson fight. I've watched that fight. Dude, Jon won that fight. In my opinion, it's super close, but I think Jon won the Gustafsson 1 fight. But yeah. Jones looked like he could hurt Aspinall. Yeah. Absolutely. Did you see bro? Did you see, he literally split Stipe's body in half with that kick, dude. And that's at the end of, dude, he was, those kicks that he was putting on Stipe's body. You really think that Tom Aspinall is just going to eat those? Like, oh, it's that was Stipe. Now it's Tom Aspinall. Like, those are kicks like that. Those are a zero-sum game. There's no like, they hurt this much on this guy and this much on this guy if they're heavyweight. Like, those were devastatingly powerful kicks to the inside of his leg, especially that front kick that he kept hitting him in the gut with. Like that, it doesn't matter, Tom Aspinall, anybody. Like that, Tom Aspinall will tell you that himself without a doubt. You know, and that spinning back kick, dude, everybody crumbles to that. Especially if they've gotten kicked in their body as much as Stipe did. But so yeah, fuck yes, he definitely can hurt Tom. But Tom can hurt Jon too, obviously. John's like, Tom Aspinall has Tom is the most complete heavyweight that I think probably we've ever seen except for Jon. You know, like both of those guys do not have weaknesses. You put them on the ground, like you put them on top on the ground, you are in a world of nightmare. You know, no one's ever really like been able to put them on their back and made them defend, but I'm sure that they'd be able to do it. Striking, you know, slightly different games, but you know, Jon has a million different ways to strike. He's great at managing distance. Yesterday, he proved that he can do it even if he doesn't have a reach advantage. Like, yeah, his striking is amazing. And Tom doesn't even make sense how fast he is given his size and strength. And he's obviously ridiculously powerful. But again, it's a zero-sum game. If Tom Aspinall lands a full throttle shot on Jon's chin, he's not going to be able to eat it. And if Jon starts kicking him in his body like that, or lands one of those head kicks, like Tom Aspinall can't eat those either. You know, it's just like the metaphor I always use about Francis Ngannou. It's like where, you know, it's like people are like, oh, that guy's got a really strong chin in fights. But it's like, okay, well, that guy with a strong chin, if he's walking on a construction site and a crane falls over and collapses on top of him, is he going to survive because he has a strong chin? It's a fucking crane. They're going to die. You know what I mean? And it's like Francis punching a guy is the crane. There's no one who's going to be able to eat that. No one. There's not a person on earth who can eat a clean shot from Francis. It's too much. It's chin is not a factor. If he lands clean, every person on earth is going unconscious. The only question is whether or not they die if they're small. Jones won't out wrestle Tom, and he can't knock Aspinall out. Bet on Jones. Wait, Jones won't out wrestle, and then bet on Jones.
I need you to tell me which pants to wear.
Jeans.
These or these?
The black. Do those jeans go with that shirt?
They can.
I mean, I like what you're wearing.
I'll try the other one, and you tell me.
Now, Jones won't out wrestle Tom. That I'm going to push back on. Not because I'm saying like he's necessarily a better wrestler than Tom or like whatever. You know, Tom's obviously an excellent wrestler, but no one's ever out wrestled Jon Jones, ever. Not ever. And every person who has ever like grappled with him has said he's incredible. Frank Mir was telling me, like, when I did the fight companion I did the fight companion for the fight where Charles Olivera fought Islam Makhachev and O'Malley fought against Peter Yan. So I did Schaub's fight companion with Frank Mir, and they were talking about because both of them, you know, obviously Frank Mir is a black belt, Schaub is a black belt also, and they had trained with Jon, and they were just talking about like that he's like not only he's so good, but he can do things that no one else can do. Like Mir said that he was that Jon was helped, like I think he was doing like a seminar or something, and he was talking to a group of these other black belts about this technique that he does, and he's like he was trying to explain like what he did, but he's like he's looking at us just kind of going, yeah, he's like you just hook this and then stand up, and Frank's like he's like, bro, like what he was describing is superhuman. Like I can't do it. He's like, and he's just like, it's so easy to him that he just takes it for granted to where he thinks he can teach it to other people. He's like he's a phenomenal grappler, like a phenomenal elite world, like best of all time athlete, you know, and yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I can't see a world where anyone can feel confident saying either of them is going to dominate the other in anything, because no one's ever dominated either of them. And Aspinall, I love Aspinall's story more than any other story on earth. Like, the guy, Gab, have I ever told you about Tom Aspinall's family? Have I told you about Tom Aspinall's family, their story? Dude, his dad, when Tom was a kid, his dad recognized that he was a super rare talent in martial arts, and his dad fucking quit his job and made them significantly less financially stable throughout their whole life, solely so he could focus all of his energy on Tom, you know, supporting Tom's martial arts career. And now he's arguably the best heavyweight in the world. It's oh yeah, that's good.
Cuter.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I love that.
Charles Lewis, thank you very much, man. The Vitor Belfort that first came to UFC and he was smoking everyone would be a good matchup for Jones. Vitor almost broke Jones' arm, dude. Like, TRT Vitor fought Jones and almost won. I mean, Vitor in his prime, either prime, but TRT Vitor was fighting at 85. Yeah, I don't know. John's length you would think would give him problems, but you sound as confident of your opinion on Jones about Tyson destroying Jake. So, well, you might have come late, pal, because look at this. Anybody who's just listening, headline: alleged contract clause bans Tyson from knocking out Jake Paul. That's yesterday. So I think that is fair to say. We have no idea what was going to happen, aside from the fact that the first punch that Mike Tyson threw in the first round, if that's true, if they couldn't knock each other out, he landed a clean shot on Jake, and Jake fucking stumbled 10 feet back. And Mike's like, oh shit, I can't even throw mini punches. I might knock him out and lose my fucking $20 million. Medicine for Life. What's up, dude? Brother, I just wanted to give you a shout out. I used Prize Picks for the first time last night. I played 35-40, but won 115. It's the best. Dude, right? Anybody who wants to make thank you for the super chat, good sir. Anybody who wants to make, like first of all, you can get $50 for free. I don't understand. Anybody who's seen my ad for Prize Picks and has not done this, it's like they literally, if you play a game, right, it's super fun. You pick over-unders on all these stat lines. So you're like, oh, well, Jon Jones land more or less than 40 strikes. And then, you have to pick at least 2 stat lines to bet on. And you could do up to 6. I mean, you can win big money, dude. You can bet $50 on one and win, like, I don't know, I think it was like $1,300 you can win if you hit all 6. But I'm gonna put the link in the description and in the chat. But if you use this and you use promo code FIRE, I'm sorry, Jesse on Fire, and you use promo code Jesse on Fire when you sign up, you play $5 and they put $50 in your account. Okay, like, it's pretty straightforward. There's no gimmick, no nothing. You play one of their games, which are super fun, for $5 and you win 50. I'm sorry, you get 50. You don't have to win. Like, you're going to come out ahead $45 no matter what. So you may as well go big. That's what I always tell my friends and stuff that I send over there. I'm like, look, so make your deposit. I'm like, but on the $5 one, go ham, dude. Like, pick six stat lines, dude. Because then, because like if you lose, who cares? You're still going to win $45 because you're going to win $50 either way. So you may as well fucking go all in and try to hit a huge one. You know what I mean? But yeah, link. I'm gonna add this. I'll add the link also in the description of this one. And by the way, I work with a lot of advertisers. Prize Picks is super dope, dude. They're awesome, guys. What's up, dude? Are we awake? We're coming down right now. But it's because the bus doesn't actually get there till 10:45. They told you 10:15 because you can't be relied upon to be on time. He hung up. All right, guys.
All the truth hurts.
Gotta roll. Hey, Brian Chumbler. If that is true, I want my fucking money back on Paul versus Tyson. No knockout clause. I mean,
are these
correct.
shoes cute with this?
Very. All right, dudes. We gotta go. Love you guys. We're going to watch the Dolphins win.